Are you curious about bodies, pleasure, and possibilities? And what about curious about what others are up to on the planet when it comes to pleasure, sex, and play? Have you considered what pleasure can do for your life, your body, and your bank account? Do you know something magical, delightful, and out of this world orgasmic is not only possible for you, but totally available to you? If you're ready to be the magical, sexual, sexy beast you know you can be, and you just need the tools to get there, you're in the right place. Now, here's the host of The Pleasure Zone, sensual movement artist, relationship and sex alchemist, Milica Jelenic.
Welcome, my sweet pleasure seekers. I know that some of you have probably had some really inappropriate and weird things show up in your life, and it wasn't necessarily by people who had ill feelings towards you. It's just that they had no etiquette. Well, this show is fairly inspired by uh, different situations that I've been in that have had zero etiquette involved and have had a lot of interesting scenarios, we'll call them, involved. So I think one of the finest examples I can give of the need for sex etiquette, which is what this show is about today, is getting sent dick pics with nobody asking me if I want them. Now, there may be on occasion where I'm like, yeah, sure, I'll take that dick pic. But for the most part, just getting sent random ones, not okay. I'm really grateful that over the last few years that has not been going on. But I tell you, probably the first 5 or 6 years of having the pleasure zone, I got almost daily dick pics from random people, and it would be no message, just a pic. And I don't even think it was their pictures because oftentimes the skin tones did not match the pictures of the person, their profile. So something was off. Either it was not their profile pic being correct, or it was not their penis color being correct, but something was off. And maybe none of it was them. And it was all just random and getting attention. It was weird. I'm glad that those days are gone with the wind. Perhaps I'm getting more sophisticated. Perhaps it's because, I'm about to hit, the big 50 next year. It could be that. It could be just my sophistication and age has made it so that I'm not getting random dick pics from 25-year-olds anymore. Good with that. Really good with that. So there's been a lack of etiquette. And etiquette in general, like I see there's a lack of etiquette even sometimes. I've heard this from people, like a lack of etiquette even in conversation. And I think that sometimes happens when we're on things like Zoom calls or different video calls, because sometimes there's a lag in the sound. So sometimes people talk over each other. Now that prior to video calls was considered inappropriate or bad etiquette, bad manners, right? So manners comes in with etiquette. And so there's a lot of different places where we use basic understanding or common understanding for certain cultures as to what is appropriate or inappropriate. And today on this show, we're going to be talking about sex etiquette. It's going to be geared towards North America because I live in North America, and I would have to research and study the sex etiquette of other countries, which could be fun, and it might be showing up in other or even just other continents. This may be showing up in future shows, but for now, we're going to stick with what I feel the sex etiquette of North America should be. Now, I haven't actually dived deep into what sex experts say. I do know that there are books out there on sex etiquette because just for fun before my show, I Googled sex etiquette and lots of stuff came up. I'm doing this according to what my thoughts on sex etiquette are, and I hope you guys have fun with this. I would love to hear from you if you have any additions that you would add to this sex etiquette list that I'm going to be sharing with you. We're going to be talking about pre-having sex, like before you even get in the sack, what are some things to do? Uh, During, what are some etiquettes to have? And post coitus, what are you going to do? So etiquette for three different areas, and within those different areas of the engagement, we're going to be looking at the different things that I feel are important. And if you feel some other things are important, cool. And if you feel like I'm right off the mark and I have too many ideas and too many rules, that's cool. Comment away. I not only do I not mind, I love it. It helps my rankings on YouTube and other places that use comments for the algorithm. So comment away, whether you love it or hate it. I'm cool with that. So let's talk about what is etiquette. Actually, before we talk about that, let's talk about why am I talking about this? So I'm a sex and intimacy coach. My name is Milica Jelenic, and I also am a holistic health practitioner and have been working with people for over 27 years in my private practice, my private business, which is also run as a it is a private industry that I'm in. Like my work, my business is private. So it's a private club. You have to join the club to work with me. And if you're interested in joining the club after this show, let me know. You can always message me on my website, milicajelenic.com, to become a member. Private members, it is a private members group. All right, so let's talk etiquette. Part of that is because I needed to get the etiquette of telling you who I am and what's going on out of the way. Now, etiquette is, this is by dictionary definition. This is not etymology. We're just going to go with the dictionary definition that people are familiar with. It is the customary code of polite behavior in society or among members of a particular profession or group. Now, if we throw sex into that, we can go that it is the customary code of polite behavior in sex. Also in society, when you look at behavior as a general, like what do people agree on in society as what is acceptable behavior in sex? And I like that if we throw etiquette with the definition of etiquette, part of it as being the polite behavior of or among members of a particular profession. Oh, the sex etiquette of prostitutes could be amazing. Perhaps that'll be a future show. I will think about that. Sex etiquette for prostitutes. Delightful. There's an idea. I will bank that thought. So, sex etiquette is, I would say, definitely different in different areas of the world, depending on what is acceptable. You know, in some areas of the world, it's not acceptable to go out and have premarital sex. And for some people who are living in North America, who belong to certain religions that, frown upon premarital sex, then, some of this stuff may seem very too liberal for you. And that's okay. You can refer to any of this stuff once you've gotten married. Absolutely. I'm referring to this stuff as an open situation, whether you're married or not married. And even when you are married, these are some things that are still good to consider for sex etiquette. In this very first segment, we're going to talk about my top ideas that I have for sex etiquette before you even get started getting horny or turned on. What do you need to do? Well, the number one thing that I think people often forget to do, especially nowadays when people are jumping on to different apps and they're just getting in the sack with any rando, any time of the day. Let's meet up in the Burger King parking lot and we'll do it behind the dumpster. I've never done that, but that image just popped into my mind. So maybe people out there are going to the Burger King parking lot and doing it behind a dumpster with a total stranger. Now, that to me has a lot of stuff that has zero etiquette. So if we put some code into place, some customary code into place. What are the number one thing I would want to do is I don't get on those apps. I'm married, but I also, prior to being married, never went on those apps. I saw other people's apps and I was like, wow, that's just cuckoo. So much judgment, judging people based on their looks or whatever they wrote, which could all be a lie. So number one, oh, and I don't even know what order to put these in, but I'm going to throw them out there. I think that cleaning yourself up is really important. Hygiene, getting the body parts clean. And I'm going to go from head to toe. It can be really gross to be with somebody who has not bathed or has, maybe they have not washed their hair in like 5 months. So there's things growing in it. Although there are people who don't wash their hair, absolutely, but they do other things too. And just thinking about that made me feel itchy. But there are other things you can do to treat your hair so that your hair is clean, but you might not be like shampooing it or something. So clean is a different definition to everybody. But if you feel clean and you don't have necessarily an overt perfume smell to you or a lack of, I kind of like a hint of hormones and pheromones so that I can actually tell what's real about a person. I can read a lot into a person when I can actually smell their hormones and pheromones. I should say pheromones. You can't really smell their hormones, but you can smell the pheromones. And maybe somebody can't smell hormones. I don't know. So I I prefer somebody who smells just like natural, like themselves, like they just had a bath, and they didn't use anything like overtly floral or anything like that, because it kind of like throws your nose off to, you know, if there's something going on, it might be hiding under the floral scents. And sometimes having things like different essential oils can be lovely, and they don't necessarily detract from your pheromones. They can sometimes enhance them. So also the reason I say is like a lot of people have sensitivity to smell. So if you are with a partner who's sensitive to smell, putting on a lot of cologne or perfume can be overwhelming. So we just want to be clean and not overly fragrant. And until you know the person and know if what their preference is for smell, it's good to just be clean with not a lot of extra added smell. And when I say clean, I'm talking the hygiene of your teeth, cleaning all of the bits. Definitely hygiene of your genitals, because there are some funky things that go on with genitals that you definitely want to make sure that's clean. And not only that, you want to make sure there are no STIs. Okay, part of that is, oh, I've done shows on STIs, and I think there are a lot of things that people don't even consider when it comes to STIs. Like if you've had somebody give you oral sex when they've had strep, you might actually be carrying that on your genitals. So, and you can get infections. You can get strep infections literally any part of your body. So there are STIs that you might not have even thought about. So when you go to get an STI check, get all the regulars checked. Also get some standard things like strep and staph, parasites, especially if you're into anal sex. Make sure that you don't have any parasites in your digestive tract. Get some swabs done, because I don't think you want to be passing things over like protozoa, like Giardia, which could create diarrhea. I also don't think, and if you're having oral sex on somebody's anus, like if you're licking the anus and they happen to have protozoa that is harmful to your gut health, it can cause problems. You also, if somebody has worms or even like tiny little pinworms or tapeworm with eggs, you don't want to be putting your mouth onto uh, any kind of body part that might be infected with parasites, fungus, bacteria, virus. Just saying. If I just turned everybody off of sex 100%, think about how my brain feels when I know what people have in bodies, when I've worked with them as a holistic health practitioner, and I'm like, whoo, you got some stuff. So hygiene is not only important, but when I talk hygiene, I'm not just talking that you smell good. I'm talking the internal system of your body is healthy and functional and clean. And I think like a lot of my friends who are holistic health practitioners or are in the health field in general and have seen a lot of things like infections and uh, random stuff that you're like, wow, how did you get that where you got that is can really make you question your actions and what you're jumping into. Okay, we're still on the before you even get in the bed situation. We're going to talk more about that when we come back for etiquette. What else do you need to do aside from get yourself physically clean, internally clean? Try not to pass on any diseases, kids. It's not fair or fun. We're going to talk more about some pre-sex etiquette, as in, putting the body parts together. But the pre-sex etiquette can actually be kind of fun and can also add to, and can be playful, add to some of the foreplay/core play. So we'll talk about that in a little bit. We're going to head to our first commercial. You're listening to The Pleasure Zone here on Inspired Choices Network, and we'll be right back after this commercial.
Are you secretly a voyeur, wondering what's going on in other people's sex lives? What if now is the time for a totally different sexual evolution? Are you interested in people who are pioneers of different sexual and pleasurable practices? Lean in now with Milica Jelenic, where she will entice you and your body to know your own pleasure zone. On the Pleasure Zone radio show with sensual movement artist Milica Jelenic, you'll receive tools, inspiration, and a foundation to allow yourself to receive more in your sex life, and quite possibly other areas of your life as well. Listen for The Pleasure Zone with Milica every Monday at 8 p.m. Eastern Time, 7 p.m. Central Time, 6 p.m. Mountain Time, and 5 p.m. Pacific Time on InspiredChoicesNetwork.com.
Are you a subject matter expert? Are you here to share your expertise with an audience waiting to hear from you in only the way you can deliver? Are you ready to have your voice amplified across the airwaves? Inspired Choices Network has a global radio platform streaming to millions of people across the world. Professionally produced and supported by an accomplished team every step of the way, you can broadcast from anywhere in the world, knowing your voice matters, and we ensure it is delivered with ease and efficiency. Eager to hear your message, the world awaits. Contact us today to become an Inspired Choices Network radio host. Email become a host at inspiredchoicesnetwork.com.
This is The Pleasure Zone with sensual movement artist Milica Jelenic. To participate in the program today, join our live studio audience in our chat room at inspiredchoicesnetwork.com. You can also make the choice to ask or comment by email. info@milicajelenic.com. Now, back to the program.
Welcome back, my sweet pleasure seekers. Tonight, we are talking all about sex etiquette. And why do I think it's important? And what is it? What is it in my opinion? Because I'm just giving you my opinion. This isn't like, this is not, anything about etiquette is actually more to do with what you feel the morals or the ideals would be. And it's not written in stone and it's not cross-cultural. This is what I feel. And I'm relating this to North America right now. So if you feel that this is true wherever you live, fantastic. If you feel I'm off my rocker and totally crazy, and why am I talking about hygiene on the inside and outside? It's because if you have a healthy, happy body, having great sex is going to be even better. And if you have a happy, healthy body, then you're not going to be passing anything on to your partner. That's pretty simple, right? Okay. So the next thing that I think is really important, and I talk about this a lot on the show, is communication. And communication is important for so many reasons. prior to even having sex is so that you can get really clear on what you're okay with. And that can change every day. Some days it might be like, you know what, I really just want a quickie. And whether that's with a partner that you've had long term, or if it's somebody that you're just getting to know, maybe you're just like, you know what, I'm good with just a quickie right now. So how do you feel about that? And they might not be so good with that. So you're going to need to navigate when, if you don't both agree on it, what are you going to do? It's helpful when you do agree, but also don't compromise yourself. Another good C word, don't compromise yourself just because, your partner's like, I want a quickie. And you're like, but I don't compromise you. Just, there might be other things you can do for them that will work for you that you don't consider like compromising you, right? So you might not want to have quickie sex, which is maybe penetration, but you might be like, you know what, I'm really okay with giving you manual stimulation with my hands. How do you feel about that? Right? So you can navigate and negotiate around that. So communication about what you want to do is great. Now, I'm going to take it one step prior to that, because I'm talking to the crowd who probably uses dating apps or things like that. One step prior to even discussing what you're willing to do is to find out the person's name. I know, like first and last name. And now, okay, let's get even crazier. Maybe even their birthday. Know a little something about the person before you actually hop in the sack with them. There's a concept. Now, if you are, of the generation where you just are like, oh, I don't care, it doesn't matter, I'm just trying to get my rocks off. In time, that will add up. It starts to create things like self-esteem issues. It will start to eat away at you. Even when you think you're fine with it, there's an undercurrent of, if you have intelligence, there should be an undercurrent of, what if I get an STI? And condoms are not the solution to every STI. Like I was saying before, you can pass things on that aren't necessarily under the category of STIs as we know them, but passing on strep throat through oral sex, that can happen. How are you going to avoid that? Are you going to try and use condoms for that? Well, you could try, but what if, you're licking other parts of the body and spreading that all over everything? Not so hot. All right. So know the person. It's helpful. It's not like you have to know everything about them. Knowing their name is helpful. Knowing something about them. Maybe their phone number, maybe a way to connect with them in case you do get an STI and you got to find out where you got it from. Maybe you got to track back. Maybe you got HIV from them and you want to track back to let them know so they don't spread it to everyone. I think keeping track of these things is important. So that's just like funny me growing up in the 80s with, HIV and AIDS being rampant. I still think about how STIs can be like life changing, and they used to be killers actually, until, medicine changed that. But yeah, they used to kill people. Things like syphilis would kill you, make your brain go to mush, and you know, AIDS was killing people, and all of those diseases, when you just get infected and not know what to do with your body, would just fall apart. So I think you should still treat it as serious, even if there's medication for it, and don't go around spreading it. All right, so communication is key. Also, another thing that I think you need to communicate before you even begin to play are some of your do's, don'ts, and maybes. And if you have no idea what those are for you, I have a pretty vanilla list over on my website, milicajelenic.com, that you can download. It's a free download. Just sign up, you get the download. And then you can kind of use that as a reference guide of what you're willing to do or not do. And if you have a new partner and you're not really sure how to bring up a conversation about certain things, or if that's just something that you're shy about, the do's, don'ts, maybe list is a really great way to open a door to have a conversation. And my rule of thumb is, if you can't say it, why are you doing it? Like, if you can't say blowjob, why are you giving a blowjob? If you can't talk about it and have a conversation about it, I don't think you're ready to do it. So that's just my take on it. And again, you can agree or disagree, but part of the etiquette to me is that if you can talk about it, and if you know the proper words, and if you know the fun and playful words, okay. And if you know what they are and what they entail, and you are age of consent, that's another one. That's part of etiquette too, age of consent. If you are that, then cool. And also, if one of the other things to discuss, so like safe words, even if you're having vanilla sex, have a safe word. Sometimes things get wacky. Sometimes things are said or done that are, too far gone for you. Easy safe word is using the colors of the of traffic lights, like red for stop, yellow for your crossing the line, green is go. You can definitely use those, are really common to use, especially when you're new to the safe words game. And you can use them for conversations too. Yeah, you just read and just know, like, somebody says that, that's it. It's dunsy doodle. It's dunsy doodles, done deal. So one of the other things I think you need to discuss prior, yes, oh my gosh, why am I so boring? Why are we talking about all this stuff? It's really like, to me, it's getting kind of like the life insurance in the game before, you go do something like jump out of an airplane. Get these things under your belt so that you are walking in with some safety nets in place. Find out what their intention is. Do they want to have a relationship? Is this a one-off? Do you want to be playmates for life? Like, and you might not know until after you've had sex whether you want to be playmates for life or not, because you might need that connection. There might be the potential for that, and go, I don't know, let's see how it goes today. And then if it's one of those, let's see how it goes today, be very honest with them in the aftercare, which we will talk about, because leaving somebody hanging is not good etiquette. If somebody's trying to connect with you and they're thinking that you're going to have a relationship and you are ignoring them, that's not good etiquette. It's not cool. I'm not cool with that. And no, I won't spank you for free, because you want the spanking, but I will punish you in ways that you don't like if you do that to people, especially to people that have left. So one of the other things around connection, I think communication can lead to greater connection. And I think one of the things we also need is to have greater connection prior to jumping in the sack. And that, again, it doesn't mean you have to know everything about the person, but sometimes you can even have a really great connection. Even just hugging somebody, you can feel or sense whether you're willing to be vulnerable with them. Even looking them in the eye can help you develop connection, so you can feel whether you want to be doing anything else with them. Kissing is a connection. Again, make sure there's no herpes or colds or any flus that you're going to share. I could probably talk quite a while on oral hygiene, but I won't. Maybe I'll have my uncle on one day who's a dentist and he can talk about that. But there's such a need to feel connected. And I think a lot of times people are just jumping in the sack because somewhere they just want to feel connected. So you got to feel connected to you, number one, and then you can connect with others. So if you're feeling disconnection, even in a relationship, whether you're like long-term or new, and you're not feeling totally connected, and you're like, I don't know why I don't feel connected, connect with you first, whether that's through body work, movement of any kind, inner reflecting, meditating, that can help you start to connect to you. Finding out who you are and what you believe in really helps you connect with you as well. And then being able to bring that to the table with your partnership is going to really be helpful in order to open conversations and be able to talk about things and just have some fun, right? So that's what we're going to be talking about in the next segment, is a little bit of communication as well, because you can communicate things during sex that are playful and fun. Also, sometimes you got to bring up the safe words. We're going to talk about some communication, consent, connection, and one of my favorites, curiosity during the act of sex and how to play with that with etiquette. How do we use etiquette during sex? I'm excited to share that with you guys. We're going to head to our next commercial. You are listening to The Pleasure Zone here on Inspired Choices Network, and we'll be right back after this commercial.
Are you secretly a voyeur, wondering what's going on in other people's sex lives? What if now is the time for a totally different sexual evolution? Are you interested in people who are pioneers of different sexual and pleasurable practices? Lean in now with Milica Jelenic, where she will entice you and your body to know your own pleasure zone. On the Pleasure Zone radio show with sensual movement artist Milica Jelenic, you'll receive tools, inspiration, and a foundation to allow yourself to receive more in your sex life, and quite possibly other areas of your life as well. Listen for The Pleasure Zone with Milica every Monday at 8 p.m. Eastern Time, 7 p.m. Central Time, 6 p.m. Mountain Time, and 5 p.m. Pacific Time on InspiredChoicesNetwork.com.
Interested in masturbating for money, copulating for consciousness, and pleasuring on purpose? 21 Days of Sexual Magicism with sensual movement artist Milica Jelenic is an exploration of tools, processes, and actions that you can use to create more for your life, your body, your money inflows, and so much more. Graduated learning for all levels of interest. Learn at your own pace via video classes or join the yearly live class. Take a peek at www.milicajelenic.com.
How wonderful would it be to carry your favorite Inspired Choices Network host with you throughout your day? Well, now you can. Inspired Choices Network now has its very own mobile app. Our free app offers live streaming shows, along with thousands of podcasts and TV episodes. Our shows cover a wide variety of topics. Whether you're waking up with us, carrying us through the day, and taking us to bed with you, we're always here for you to enjoy. We're easy to find. Just search for Inspired Choices Network in the Apple App Store or Google Play Store.
This is The Pleasure Zone with sensual movement artist Milica Jelenic. To participate in the program today, join our live studio audience in our chat room at InspiredChoicesNetwork.com. You can also make the choice to ask or comment by email, info@MilicaJelenic.com. Now, back to the program.
Welcome back, my sweet pleasure seekers. Today we're talking about sex etiquette and why I think it's important. And I'm mostly relating this to what I feel is true for North America. It could be true for South America or Europe as well. It could be true for Australia. I am not assuming. I'm going with North America because that's where I was born and raised. And I'm going with what I feel I would want as etiquette in a relationship. So feel free to add to this, to, debate it. I'm happy to hear your opinion on it. What do you feel is important as etiquette with sex? And to me, connecting with your partner prior to having any kind of feeling a connection, like that you desire them, not just that you want to ravage their body for pleasure, but that you actually have some care about them, can go a long way. Loving them is even better. However, I'm not expecting high things right now from society. I'm just expecting a little bit of etiquette, just a little, guys. So just before break, we were talking about all the different things to have as sex etiquette prior to actually getting in the sack. And now we're going to talk a little bit about what do you do during? Is there anything you do during except for have sex? Well, actually, there probably are, and you might not even realize it. One of the things that I think is really important is, I know you guys are going to be like, here she goes again, communication. So how do you communicate during sex? Well, I have to say that it all depends on who you are and what you like. I am a nerd and sapiosexual, so hearing anything random and factual during sex for me is so hot. And on I don't know, it was like the very beginning of my relationship with my husband. I hadn't like defined that about me, but somewhere he must have known it. And he just busted out some random facts about, I think it was sex related or relationship related, just busted out some random facts in the middle of sex. It was so hot. I was like, "Ugh, you obviously know me so well that you would do that." It's so hot. And such a little weirdo. I gotta love him for it. So, you know, communication is for whatever works in your relationship. So if you need to hear, naughty words during sex, like if your partner's bringing out all the expletives all over you and that doesn't work for you, then you got to say something prior to getting in the sack, because that can really just shut everything off. That's where that communication can come in as well prior to getting in the sack, is that you actually have discussion about what language and words will work for you, all the things, like navigate some things first, be like, you know what, I don't really like to hear those words. So, or maybe you love them and they get you rocking and you want to hear every naughty word that's ever existed in every language that you know. Bring it. And if you don't and you want to hear something else, maybe you want to hear sweet, loving words like gentle, poetic sort of things, ask for that. If your partner doesn't know how to deliver that, and they're not averse to it, like for some people, maybe saying expletives out loud to their partner is very much against what they feel is appropriate behavior and against their etiquette. So it wouldn't really work for them. If they're neither here nor there about it and they just never tried it, then it just takes a matter of playing around and getting comfortable with it. But if it's something they're truly not comfortable with, then don't have that expectation of them. And that goes too for, saying poetry to you. If they're just not comfortable with it, then that's just their choice, right? You need to honor that. So communication can be extra simple during sex. It can even be as simple as through touch, with communicating through either stroking their body in rhythm to whatever uh, motion of the ocean you got going on. You can be doing other things as well, like moaning or whispering sweet nothings in your partner's ear. You can also communicate with different body language, like actually following the lead of your partner. I have tended to be a bit of a leader most of the time. And it works for me really well to do that. And my body is able to surrender to pleasure more when I get to be the one to initiate and be the leader. So I think some people get frustrated by that and they're like, why does that always happen? Just check in and see, does that happen because you're actually able to surrender more? Or is it that your partner is able to enjoy more when you are the leader? That sometimes is true too. So, not to make it wrong at all, I'm just figuring it out and seeing what works for you on that. So, during communication, let's keep it so simple to, giving words of affirmation like, oh, that's so hot. Oh, yeah, do more of that, moaning, all that great stuff. Giving the cry of the wild right as you climax, all of that is great. Consent, again, is always important. So, giving feedback for consent, like, oh yeah, that, do more of that. That's great. That's consent. Connection is not just, getting those body parts to go back and forth, together without slipping out of position, but it's also about connecting to your partner. So one of the things that I find really cool during sex is to be able to breathe the same breath that my partner breathes, or to be able to either if I'm the leader and they're the follower, or vice versa, I might end up following them, even though I probably started as the leader. Then getting your bodies in sync with each other, getting your breathing in sync, getting a whole bunch of things in sync can really help with connection. And sometimes the connection can be so still almost and quiet, where you're just holding each other. Maybe you're having your genitals touching or something, and you're just holding each other, heart connection and breath work, very much like in the umbrella of tantric experiences. And then, so connection, super important, and curiosity. Curiosity is like all the fun things you can have and play with. So bringing out any helper toys is great. Bringing out, and that isn't just vibrators, guys. So bringing out helper toys can be things like bringing out silk scarves, or something that you can use for sensory deprivation, like covering your eyes, or you could have any kind of playful things that can add for the curiosity. And they can just be there. Sometimes just having them there in the room adds to a little bit of the zest of, will they or won't they? Will they use those or won't they use those? What's going to happen? What are those used for? Never saw that before. Where does that go? Does that go in my bum or my vajayjay? Or does that go up my nose? Where does that go? All those fun questions. Bring some curiosity in. You can also be curious about your partner's body. And this is where having some words in place, like, you know, all your safe words, because sometimes you might be exploring your partner's body and they have definite no zones that they might have forgotten to mention. Like their no zone might be, do not stick anything in my bum hole. And during play you might get curious and start exploring, and the next thing you know, you grab the butt plug from under the sheets and you shove it in their butt, and they're like, whoa. So you gotta let them kind of know what's happening before you go. Getting curiosity is great, and let them know what you're doing, and also give your partner free rein to say no at any time. And that's part of the consent, is the free rein to say no at any time, which is really important. So curiosity, I find too, can be great for opening new doors, new ideas, even new locations, and just starting to have more fun. Like if we, like, what if we all had sex like today was the last day of our lives? And what would you do? I think that's my curiosity question of the hour. If you were with your partner and the world ends tomorrow, what kind of fun are you going to have with your partner? What kinds of things would you like to say to them? Now, these are some fun things that you can say to them and do with them right in that moment, because we're never guaranteed tomorrow. So why not have fun today? That's just my thoughts on that. And I think the more I see random things, like recently in our area the other day, somebody just randomly got killed in a water skiing accident. A boat ran over them. And then it makes me go, well, if I knew that that day before that was the last of my life, what would have I been doing? You know, and like, if today is the last day of my life, what am I going to do? What am I going to spend my time doing? Who am I going to visit? Who am I going to do? What am I going to do with them? It's going to be good times. So I'm a fan of live your life like it's your last day possible. Plan for the future, of course. Don't be irresponsible and throw everything away, but definitely have more fun with life. So curiosity can really peak when you start to look at, wow, if this is my last ever chance, what am I going to do? What kind of fun am I going to have today? It can be also a bit of an overwhelming energy, because there might be so many things. And if you do come up with so many things, if you only had one day left, what are you going to choose? if you come up with so many ideas, write them all down, because they're all things that you actually deeply desire doing or being, testing out. And how would you treat your partner if today was your last day? How would you treat your partner? Would you want to go out with a bang, with lots of love and kindness, and or would you want to hold grudges and get mad, and like, how would you want to be? And I think, going to bed with the thought of, your partner could just not be there the next day, whether they die, they walk out on you, how would you treat them? If you would miss them, then that means that you probably love them. And what would you like your relationship to be like with them? And just start choosing into what that would be. And you can have that right there during sex in that moment. It's like, what could be the best sex ever? Because this could be the last time ever. Curiosity can bring that up. Well, that was a random offshoot rant, guys. And, that happens sometimes. But we're going to talk about aftercare as well. And aftercare is really important, because I think a lot of times this is where things fall short and people feel neglected and used and all that stuff. So having some aftercare after this commercial break. You're listening to The Pleasure Zone here on Inspired Choices Network, and we'll be right back after this commercial.
Are you secretly a voyeur, wondering what's going on in other people's sex lives? What if now is the time for a totally different sexual evolution? Are you interested in people who are pioneers of different sexual and pleasurable practices? Lean in now with Milica Jelenic, where she will entice you and your body to know your own pleasure zone. On the Pleasure Zone radio show with sensual movement artist Milica Jelenic, you'll receive tools, inspiration, and a foundation to allow yourself to receive more in your sex life, and quite possibly other areas of your life as well. Listen for The Pleasure Zone with Milica every Monday at 8 p.m. Eastern Time, 7 p.m. Central Time, 6 p.m. Mountain Time, and 5 p.m. Pacific Time on InspiredChoicesNetwork.com. This is The Pleasure Zone with sensual movement artist Milica Jelenic. To participate in the program today, join our live studio audience in our chat room at InspiredChoicesNetwork.com. You can also make the choice to ask or comment by email, info@MilicaJelenic.com. Now, back to the program.
Welcome back, my sweet pleasure seekers. Today, we are talking about sex etiquette. We're talking about the pre, the during, and now we're talking about the aftercare, because the aftercare is often non-existent, neglected, overlooked. Why is aftercare important? You probably have heard complaints like, my partner just gets up after sex and walks away. There's no cuddling. I want to cuddle. It's because aftercare is important. That's that connection. We still want connection. We don't want to have this random quick connection and then disconnect. It's like if you do that to so for example, if you're nursing a baby, and even if the baby falls asleep, I'm just going to use my baby as an example. This might not be true for everybody, but when I was nursing my baby, and there would be like a time where they're done nursing and they just want to be held, and you hold them. If you were to just take that baby from nursing and just plop them somewhere, there would be a huge disconnection energy. So there's usually a desire, and you can feel it in a child, you can feel it in people, or maybe I can. I would hope that other people can, but maybe they can't. You can sense and feel when somebody actually is desiring that holding, and when they're ready to have space and let go. And sometimes it's being aware of that in yourself, of your own body in reaction to their body. That is part of it. But being able to know that when you have an intimate connection, and I was using nursing as an example, but an intimate connection like sex, and you're with your partner, you just because the act is finished, or everybody's climax is key. Everybody's climaxed. No, it's not actually key. You can just have fun. I'm just joking about that, because that's a lot of pressure and not necessarily true for everyone. They don't need it. So it's not a blanket statement. It's a bit of a joke. So when when you are, yeah, when you're finished having sex, having a connection to your partner, whether that's even just talking or cuddling, or, whether it's like reading a book together or listening to music, meditating, do something together until the energy kind of calms down and your bodies feel calm and rested. And then you can actually either start your day, continue your day, or go to sleep, either way. If you roll over right away, go to sleep, and you have zero connecting time after, it can feel, especially if you have abandonment issues in your life, which I've had, you can feel completely used. And like, what's the point of even being here? Because you just wanted my body and now you're asleep and it was just all about you. And that's not fun at all. But when you have somebody who's actually willing to be there, cuddle, snuggle, and fall asleep, fantastic. So, having the post aftercare connection is great. And also having talks. Like sometimes things come up and you're like, well, that thing you tried that time, that was interesting. Don't know if you noticed, I was kind of like, hey, that was a little weird. I was in the yellow zone. Maybe next time if we try that, can we try it in a different way? Or maybe next time we don't try that because my body wasn't really reacting so great to that. So not to, if you're giving feedback, give also positive feedback. It's really important in that communication too, to be like, this stuff really worked for me. If none of it worked for you, you might want to connect with me so that we can do some sex and intimacy coaching with you and your partner so that we can figure out what does work for you, and then how you can start to have a better connection and a better sex life. Because it's integral actually to, especially if you are in a partnership, that kind of intimacy is integral to your health and your well-being, both mental and physical. So yeah, it's good to get that on track. So having the aftercare with communication, talking about what worked, especially giving great feedback, is so lovely to be like, that was awesome. Like that's the best blah, blah, blah of my life. Thank you so much. Like, or also, I like to just say thank you. So I think I surprised my husband the first time I did this, but I, I think I gave him a blowjob this time. Maybe it's the first time I don't know. I remember doing this and surprising him. So it's been a few years. And whatever it was, I remember thanking him for a blowjob. I gave him a blowjob. And then I said, thank you for letting me do that. And he was like, what? And I was like, yeah, I appreciate that you allowed me to give you pleasure. Thank you so much. And he was like, well, nobody's ever said that before. So, sometimes it's fun to surprise your partner with gratitude for things that people don't normally say thank you for. It can be a lot of fun. And also, we're talking about things like the aftercare of communication and the aftercare of, connection. And another part of aftercare, just like the beginning where we had hygiene and cleanup, aftercare with hygiene and cleanup. How fun is it? Whether, you have the time to jump in a shower together or have a bath together, or, just get some cloths and wipe each other off. Fantastic. Aftercare is great. And when you can include that in your play and then keep the connection going and discuss, what are we doing? We want to do this again? Where would you like to go from here? What else would you like to try? Do you want to try again? That kind of stuff. All those things can really add so much fun. And it's all part of etiquette. So the aftercare is also part of etiquette. It's just like you're not just getting up, walking away. The cleanup can also include, like, if you're using things like condoms or anything like that, throwing those things out, cleaning the sex toys, helping to clean up the space. If you've had like some wild G-spot orgasm and there's like fluids everywhere and you just help clean that up, fantastic. All that kind of cleanup. It's not just the bodies, but it's also the space. And having fun with it, making it playful, right? So it doesn't become daunting. You can actually enjoy each other. I super encourage you guys to go.
Thank you for listening to The Pleasure Zone with sensual movement artist Milica Jelenic. The Pleasure Zone returns next Monday at 8 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. Central, 6 p.m. Mountain, and 5 p.m. Pacific on InspiredChoicesNetwork.com. We hope you'll join us. Until then, have the best week of your life by choosing to be turned on and tuned in to your body.